Hello, everyone. This is Prati Kaufman, host of Small Business Marketing. And today we're going to talk about the branding mistakes most small businesses make. And I have an amazing guest who has been doing this for like, I don't know, probably 50 years when, the day she was, I don't know, probably 5 years or 10 years before she was even in the womb, right? That's all you've done. So meet Barb Pritchard. She is the founder of Infinity, brand design, and I'm going to let you speak, Barb, about your journey of this brand, and how I know that I've worked with you, and you're an amazing designer, so creative, full of life, and all the woo woo I like. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, thank you for that introduction because you're amazing. I'm a fangirl of Prati. We have worked together before and it was just wonderful. I'm Barb Pritchard, CEO of Infinity Brand Design, and I really stepped into this space because corporate wasn't working for me. I had that itch to help purpose-driven businesses, right? And really help them be visible, be seen, be heard. Because there's a lot of noise out there. And your brand is what really can kind of create that um, sound wave or visual wave, if you will, to kind of break through all of that noise and get out of that echo chamber, right? Um, and it was when I started really stepping into owning my spirituality and my differentiator, right? Was when Infinity Brand Design really kind of skyrocketed and took off. And that is what I share is I help my visionaries own their magic and step into that and then create their brand legacy and then evolve their business through that magic.
Love that visionary. Own their magic. Guys, this is, if you're a small business owner reading this, you are a visionary. Own your magic. And that brings me to the next question when you say, I help you, get build your brand. Now, what does
Yes.
that even mean? Please help us understand because to me, I remember, right? Good thing I was in a marketing, but I meet a lot of small business owner, and the concept of branding, like what they have, is to me is like wow, right? So explain to us.
Oh yeah, because like a brand to so many people is kind of like this amorphous blob that's intangible and floating over here, but it still has some tangible pieces to it with your logo and your colors and your fonts and things like that. But it is so much bigger than that. It's so much more important than that because it's how your audience perceives you. It's how they feel about you, how you make them feel, and it's what makes you memorable, right? It's there's a branding genius who I consider a mentor of mine. I've read his books and he's just brilliant. His name is Marty Neumeier. And something he says in his book, The Brand Gap, is your brand is not what you say about you, it's what they say about you. It's kind of, I'm going to give you this visual too. Um, I imagine like just a huge, those huge golf umbrellas, those massive, or even like the big umbrellas that are over a table or something like that, a big old canopy. That is your brand. It encompasses every client interaction within your business and how that makes them feel. So it's a it's huge. It's a big
Yeah,
important thing.
yeah, it's hard to explain, but
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is there's a part of this called visual identity, which is your logo. But even with that, I want to explain, like, if you don't mind, like, just for
Yeah.
a second, what the bare minimum you have to have in the visual identity part, and
Mhm.
then defining who you want to be, what you want to be known for, what is it your brand represent, and then bringing that in every aspect of brand. We're going to talk about that's called to me brand activation. It is
Mhm.
not just visual; it's every word, right? How you show up, your every touch point, kind of seamless. So people always ask me, and what is it, what happens when you have a brand? So let's first start with a visual brand. I'm going to share my screen, right,
Mhm.
and show what a basic visual brand is, and you can say yes or no to me, okay? So we can edit this part just a second because I have to, this came out, it's fine, okay? they,
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
always edit this, okay? Good, thank god for digital marketing, right? The digital thing, so it can be
Oh
edited.
yeah.
Okay, so I was doing this, right? I will talk, so branding. Yes. So just a second, and this is okay. So let's talk about at the basic of basic level, right? Gotta have a style sheet which kind of explains what your logo is, what your colors are, and what your fonts are, right? That's I
Yes.
think is the most basic visual identity. I know I've seen brand books which are like 50 pages, 70 pages for big brands where everything is defined, even the color, the Pantone, right? How it's going to be, on the signage, how it's going to be on a cup. But when you're starting out, I think these are the most basic thing you need.
Yes.
What do you say about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. You need I would say a minimum of two logos. Like you need your horizontal logo and you need
Yeah.
a stacked logo because they can certain logos fit better in certain
Yeah.
situations better. But then
So
you
that's
got to
the
have your
next.
colors.
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
next color, right? You can have an icon, linear, stacked, word mark, or kind of format of the logo.
Yes.
Also, even within that, there's just kind of size. You also need to have a high res of a PNG and a JPEG to share with the team, and always a source file. Now, people so often I can't believe when people come, they are like, "What's a source file?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So let's explain, like, if you are new or if you want to ever invest, what are the basic, let's do a checklist of all the things in the visual identity they should have. Uh,
Okay. For visual identity, what you
yes,
absolutely need are you need logos. And you please have a transparent logo, a transparent background logo that
that's
the
PNG called,
PNG.
right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Pardon me. You need that. That is essential. And it needs to be, like you said, high resolution. So let's say, for example, you're in Canva and you're creating your logo there, which there is no judgment there. Okay. If you are working with your logo there, you need to save it out at, I would say at minimum 2 times the size of what you're designing it, because you just never know where it's going to be used. The thing with a really good, impactful logo is it needs to be simple. It needs to be easy to read regardless of the size. So, say for example, you're going to do a billboard. You're going to promote your business on a billboard, or you have a physical location that you're going to put your logo on. It needs to look good at that size,
Yeah.
scaled. If it's going to be used on, let's say, for example, the favicon. So if you're looking at your browser, the little icon there, that's just the icon. That's not the full logo that you want to use there. You need that. You need the word mark, what's called the word mark, which is just the text version. And then you need a horizontal version of your logo that has both the word mark and the icon. And then
Mm.
you need a stacked version. So
Yeah. So I
that's
will
what I
add the
consider the
list.
bare minimum.
Basically logo, right? Your fonts and a
Yes.
style sheet with your primary color logos and few secondary colors, right? That way. Now, how it will impact is, let's talk about, so you created your visual identity. Now let's talk
Mhm.
about offline, right? To me, there's some, when you're starting out, at minimum what you need to me is also a mission statement, a vision statement, right? And core values. It could be 3 to 5, but having that, I think, really grounds you into who you are. Correct?
Well, I will say that actually, before you even get into the visual identity, you really need to have it rooted in the values, your purpose, your passion, your mission, all of that needs to be established first. And having the mission statement is absolutely core to it. But I think even before you get to that point, you need brand attributes. What are those attributes? Like, what is the core meaning of your brand? Is it, are you bold? Are you, I don't know, just kind of any kind of descriptive words to describe you and how you are different um, from all the noise out there in the world? That can help define your brand mission statement and then everything else behind that, as well as the visual identity. Because once you know how you're going to talk about your brand through these attributes, things start kind of falling into place too.
So, do you have a questionnaire where you can send it to people like, oh, before you start the logo process, here are some questions you can answer? Do you have a template like
I
that for people
actually
to
have gotten to
share?
the point now where I don't even use forms because I feel like people do better with talking it out, and they are able to move past some of those thoughts that um, those limiting beliefs that they may have about their business and what they really kind of do. So I have an exercise that I do with my clients. It's basically a brand attributes exercise where we go through like various phases, like what does your audience say about you? What is your voice and tone? Things like that to kind of really get them talking and excited so much more than what they might do on a intake form, because an intake form can feel kind of a little robotic, you know? So
Yeah, but these are the people who typically, are not able to afford somebody directly. So what we are trying to do is, give them enough tools and resources. So try to figure this out on their own. And then, when the time comes, right? So really
oh yeah.
the thing is focused on small business. But anyways, so we talked about what is branding. Branding is simple, right, guys? Visual identity, which is logo, fonts, right? And your colors. At at the base, okay? Then who you are, right, as a brand, what you do, how you do it, what is it you want to do in the world, how you help others, understand your mission, your vision, and your kind of core values. You need to work on all that. And it may seems really like, oh my God, there's a lot of information, but really, if you sit down with the use of AI and say, help me understand all that, they will give you right questions and answer and all of it, right? So it
Yes.
shouldn't take you more than hour and a half to define all of those your values and what it is before you go to the logo. So simple.
Yes, and I actually have it's a free guide that can help people with that. It's what I call the Soul Vision guide, and basically it helps people ask these certain questions, gives you AI prompts to go into ChatGPT to kind of help you kind of surface some of this out and kind of talk back and forth a little bit with ChatGPT to kind of get it more aligned to you. So I'd be more than happy to share that too.
That would be so good for people. I think we need some resources.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. Okay. So that brings me to my next question, right? So we talked about brand, okay, but there's a whole this thing that small businesses don't need brand,
Oh
correct?
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that because I really believe if you're a small business owner, it's all the more important to have this branding because it will cost us a lot less, right, in the long run to kind of figure out, to create the brand recall. It's so much easier to create a brand recall if
Mhm.
you have a solid, strong brand than not. So tell us a little bit about how do we create this strong brand?
Oh yeah. Well, I will say this too. Like before anyone works with me, if they don't have a brand established, that's our starting point. Like I won't even work on their website unless they have a strong brand established. So I can resonate that. Even if it's a sales funnel that we're doing together, it's like what's your branding? So I resonate with that 100%. What they need, it kind of what I feel like is what we kind of need to touch on too are the kind of the misconceptions there with that. Maybe they're too small or they just don't feel like they need it or anything. And it's like your brand is what speaks for you when you're not in the room. It does all this work for you. And like you said, it's going to cost them a lot more money in the long run if they don't have this established because and not just their visual identity, the soul, the heart and soul of their business. If they don't have that established and what that sounds like, what that looks like, what the intention behind it is, yeah, it's definitely going to cost you a long run because you're going to be throwing spaghetti at the walls. You're going to be inconsistent in how you show up in the world, and I think that is really what is super super important there. So focus on getting that established, those that core foundation. It's kind of like building a house without a foundation. It'll stand for a little while, but it's going to be on shaky ground. um,
Yeah.
so I really feel like that is something that's super important to do in establish those core values, establish those purpose and all of that, and then go with what does that look like? Okay, what does that feel like? And then take those brand attributes and go into Pinterest and type in whatever brand attributes that you have and see what comes up. Do those
Yeah.
visuals align with you? If they don't, keep going. I love to use it's a tool, it's a website, wordhippo.com.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I talk about it all the time, and I love it because if you need help with coming up with, synonyms and, maybe even antonyms or anything like that, I go to Word Hippo because it gives you just this great unfolding of all kinds of words and resources to look at to help you come up with these brand attributes to then help you create I think a mood board is very important. I love mood boards.
Yeah.
In fact, I require that whenever I'm working with a client because I feel like you need that energy of the visual nature of your business to be able to then go into and okay, well, what does that look like for a logo? And then what does that look like for fonts and all of that? So that makes I hope that makes sense. So
Yeah. I think it was kind of, you're very, like, you're so rooted in this brand. What I'm going to explain to you guys in a simple way is, let's say, my tagline for the SBM, for a small business marketing agency, is making marketing stress free for small business owners, right? And one of our core values is creating ease, right? And creating like a feeling of, lightness in you. So when I hire content writers and they're taught to talk about, let's make people feel bad, correct? And
yeah.
then we'll give them a solution. If you look at our marketing, we would never do that, because our when we are talking about creating ease, I don't want people to feel bad about them, right? What I want them to know, they're amazing the way they are.
Mhm.
Can we get your amazingness to next level or even more, right? So the it really defines your how your messaging and how you're going to show up. If you have clearly defined brand values and your mission is clear, then you don't fall for so-called quick schemes or use this hook or that hook, because you know what you want to stand for. Did I
Exactly.
explain that correctly?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And it helps you make business decisions. So, um, and we have a very similarly aligned values and mission statement too. And it's like, because mine is very empathy focused, empathy focused, empathy first, combine those words.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, and like you, I will never do, I don't believe in poking the bruise. I just, that's not aligned to who I serve and what I stand for either. And but you still want to make sure that they understand that they understand that you get what their pain points are and all of that. But that's kind of getting into the weeds there. But
Yeah.
when you establish this is what I stand for, this is what I will do and won't do. It's drawing a line in the sand. It's giving you that differentiation, to what makes you different from other people and other brands and other businesses, even in your same niche, in your same industry. Um, and I think that's so essential because you can make decisions based on those values, the purpose, the mission statement, and in your offers and how you show up in the world and what things you write on your social media, what things you write on your sales page, like we were talking about, or your website. So yeah, it defines so much and it can help with your every decision making process too.
So, a strong brand is where you are embracing all the parts of the brand. You're showing up fully. Your messaging is clear and it's a process. You're not going to get it right at the beginning. So, don't be afraid to try different things and find what works for you. Go and create your brand. A strong brand is that you are owning all that you are, even for me, like when I do the photography, like I go to photo session for myself, I wear pink. In my life, I'm wearing pink and red because that's who you are. You wear red, right? That's
Yes.
don't be afraid to yourself. Right? That's really is the brand. And experiment, and then within some time, if you're starting out, you will know what you like, what you don't like, how you want to show up, and all that. And I want to give you an example today. Like somebody reached out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active, and the person started to ask me questions about how I dress, what I do, right? And I could like I know that the person was asking me question just to kind of say, can I help you, right? I would rather someone just say, "Hey, do you need me?" instead of ask five questions to kind of reel me in. So that's right. Is that the brand you want to create? Fine. But like understanding all that will matter, right? For me, I won't do that. If I need your business, I'm going to go approach directly. Hey, I'm here. I can offer you the services. Do you want it? So that's really, like you're saying, how the brand will do it. It really changes the way you show up in every possible way.
It does. Well, and it helps you, like you said too, is authenticity is really important, and especially right now. But it's authenticity to me is never a trend. It shouldn't be a trend.
Yeah.
When you have your brand established, you get to show up how. what's more natural to you. And when you are showing up in a way that is more natural to you, it's so much easier to talk about your business, who you help, what you do for them, all the things that you offer. And it almost feels like when you are selling, we'll say selling, you're really serving, right? And you get to show up in a way that just feels so good. It feels so aligned to you. It doesn't feel cringy. It doesn't feel gross. And people, whether consciously or subconsciously, they resonate with that kind of energy. And when you have your brand established, those core roots, the values, the mission statement, everything that is your heart and soul that is important to you, people understand that. They resonate with that. And that is where what makes you magnetic and attractive, because it also repels those who are not aligned with you, saving you a lot of time and money, by the way. So defining this information and getting super in the weeds with it and just really kind of like, yes, that is me. That is my business. It goes a long way for that. And there was something else too that you said that really, um, oh, it just left me. I hate when that happens. There was something else you said though that it, your brand evolves with you. So
Yes.
you have one version that you're going to start out with. And we as human beings, we evolve. Our businesses evolve. So naturally, our brand needs to evolve. And I will say this, regardless of what kind of evolutionary state your business is in, whether you're starting it, you've been successful, you've worked with it for a couple of years, or you've been in business for 10, 20 decades, right? Um, when you start with having those core values set, as kind of like your beacon, your guiding light, those typically follow you throughout every evolution. Your visuals may change, and they likely will. I'm actually going through an evolution of my own business right now too. So your visuals will change. Even some of the words that you use will evolve too, and that's a good thing. So don't ever feel like your brand visually is set in stone, like you can't change it. No, you have flexibility there, but you still want consistency. There's some rules behind that too, but it's going to evolve with you. And I think that's beautiful, right?
Yeah, I mean, it should. So, we will share some visuals of how the brand activation happens, right? So, if you have a logo and all, I mean, we all have seen those feeds where they're all over the place, all different fonts, all different colors, like it's hard to really understand who they are, what they stand for.
Hmm.
They always say stand for something, right? Not standing for something means nobody will ever remember you, so you got to stand for something. So in the we will show you, the screenshots of how a brand activation happens on your website, on your social media, on your email, in the way you show up. We will give you examples. So if you don't have a strong visual identity and a brand identity of who you are, it's never going to happen because you won't know how to show up. So that's
Yeah.
really important to know. So one of the things, we touch point, right? I think one of the question I wanted to ask you was, the price to pay, right? The cost of not having a strong brand, right? I think we talked about the cost. Again, let's define it in a very short way. What is the cost of not having a brand?
Inconsistency is what is going to be the first notification of like, oh, they don't have a strong brand. And what that does for you is it erodes your trust. When your visuals, your messaging, even the experience that they have on your social media, the customer experience, if you will, if they don't align with those values, with what you've set, what you have or have not set, rather, they question your professionalism. So your expertise is, in limbo here, right? And
Yeah.
it's trust is non-negotiable for growth. They have to trust you. And there's studies that say that there's 81% of consumers need to trust a brand before they buy from them. So I think that is one core thing, but another one is that it kind of puts you in a race to the bottom, right? So and what I mean by that is without a clear brand, your only big differentiator there is price. And that's a losing game for any small business.
Yeah. Yeah, so what you're really trying to say is if you don't have a strong brand, right? you're starting from, bottom of the bottom, because nobody will remember you. You can be amazing at what you do, the most brilliant person, and yet people won't see that. That's the unfortunate thing. When you're going to have some clients, but that brand recall is not there. So
Yes.
you have to do this. Imagine, when Apple starting, Nike, I know those are big brands, and you're like, oh, those are big it doesn't matter. I have a Prati Kaufman brand, you have an Infinity brand. You know what, my logo is known in the my local community. People recognize me. They're like, oh, you always wear pink, I'm known. Like, I will show up, and you're like, oh, that's the Prati Kaufman, right? Like, again, it doesn't need, you don't need to play a big game, a small community, but that recall is strong, right? So
Yes.
that's what it is. And trust happens. What you are saying is that, like, if you show up with different colors and all, not that you're not trustworthy. I think what you're trying to say is people don't perceive anybody who is showing up differently every day as trustworthy. So
Mhm.
that's really important, the perceived value of showing up. Imagine having an Apple store with different look and feel everywhere you go, not set up the same way. I mean, I remember if I go to Trader Joe's and they change their way of setting up their thing, and we're so lost, it takes me like 5 visits to kind of get used to the new layout. So
Yes.
that's branding to me, right? That
Yes.
your layout is
Consistency.
consistency, right? We lose our shit when we don't have a consistent way of showing up, right? So that's, do you have anything to add to it before I get to the next
Well,
question?
it's kind of one of those things where I feel like we as humans, change is weird for us. A lot of us, I'll say. I won't speak for everyone in the human race, but
Mm.
we kind of fight against change. And so when we see something, it just makes your brain stop for a minute and it's like, go back, hold on, what's actually going on here? I love what Donald Miller says, and
Mm.
we need to make it so simple for them to buy from us. We need
Yes.
to not require them using so much brain power, so much resource and energy to remember, to think about who we are. And when we have these inconsistencies in our branding, colors, logos, whatever that is, fonts and things like that, you're making them think too hard. And
Yes.
remember, try to recall your brand recall. It's too difficult. When it's
Yes.
consistent, and there are a lot of people out there like, oh my gosh, it just feels so boring to use the same colors and fonts and logos all over the place. Honey, that's the best thing for you because that brand recall, you are memorable. And that's
Yes.
what you want is to be memorable.
Yes, yeah, no, it's so right. You really hit the nail here about why you need to have a strong brand. Again, there are ways to do it on your own. You can literally, Canva is so great with all the AI driven. You can do it. Or worst case scenario, I am not a big fan of Fiverr, but these guys do a great job. You tell them what to do, and they'll come up with this very reasonable. And it's okay to start with that, until you figure out what it is, and then you can invest more. So I think we have pretty much touched on all points. What's the problem, the pitfalls of not having a brand, the things which can go wrong. Let's give them, I want them, our audience to know a step by step plan. I've given some ways to understand or how to start the logo process. Can you help them? Let's say they have no budget, zero budget right now, or very
Yeah.
minimum, how best they can create their visual identity. And I know you're going to give them a tool, but like, let's walk them through step by step. Number one thing, do this. Number two, number three, number four. Can you walk us through that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the first thing you want to do is you want to start with clarity. So understand your why. Know that from your heart of hearts. Understand that. Know who you serve and then how you solve any problems that they have. But what makes you different in how you solve that? That clear vision isn't going to cost you a thing. It's free, right? But it gives you everything that you need to build that foundation that really resonates. And then you can DIY with intention. So you can use, templates or whatever. In fact, my shop has, logo templates that you can use, but they are built with intention. And then you choose the whatever kind of brand board or whatever that may fit to you, or you hire someone to create that for you based on what I think is another important step is to create a mood board that reflects your brand's personality. So create the mood board, then DIY. Pick out, logo or whatever. Um, Another step is to leverage your voice. So you want to write copy that sounds like you and that creates connection for those, it, when you have that connection, that's just something that money can't buy. It's just like when people are like, that's Barb. I'm so excited to be in a room with Barb. That's Prati. I love sharing space with Prati and I can't wait to buy from her. Money can't buy that. That's just
I
awesome.
buy that. Yes.
Yeah. So what steps, let me kind of recap on that. What I would do is get clear on who you serve, what you do, your why, and what differentiates you. So do that. Then take that information, those brand attributes that you create, how you would describe your business, create a mood board. Go into Pinterest, type those words in, and then add some kind of like visual terminology, like type in, bold branding or um, earthy branding or whatever it may align with you, and create that mood board so you kind of see it, kind of get a feel for it, what that might look like. And then either go into Canva and start playing, or go buy some designer grade templates. So you're getting something that isn't just something, just thrown together, or go hire somebody on Fiverr who can design this for you. But then also make sure whenever you're writing about it, like if you're doing some social media things, make sure that you're using words that align with those values that you set in the beginning. So, yeah,
Perfect. So, in a nutshell, right, here is a step by step one process, right? You understand, first of all, who you are, what you're selling, who are you selling to, and why do she buy from you, right? Get clear on that. Second thing, you want to come to you. What's your mission, right? What are your values? What's your vision for your business? So once you have defined that, the third step would be to do a Pinterest board, understand how all of that will come together visually for you, so you get a feel for it. And then I think the last step is really go and get the logo and visual identity and create all of that. And you know knowing, I think addition bonus is really, you should know the words you enjoy, so that you can include that in your writing. But I do like the recommendation that write in your voice, right? Now you've defined it, write few posts, write your web copy, write your about page, whatever that may be, to get that all, word, like in words to people, and let's see how you feel. So I think that's the way to really establish your brand. And between you and me, I can tell you that exercise has to be done regularly. It's not an like and your values, sometimes you have to add, but typically they don't change, but you may have to enhance or write it differently, write it better. It's always an ongoing
yeah.
process of how we are activating brand.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like I said earlier, you evolve as a person. Your business evolves, and so will your brand. And how you think about it, how you feel about it, how you want it to feel towards others will evolve too. So you may make small tweaks to it, like how, I mean, I feel like I'm always adjusting the way I talk about things, and I think that's good. But I would highly suggest, if you already have a brand, go and look at it. If you haven't looked at it in the past 6 months, it's time to look at it again.
100%. And any one last piece of advice for our audience?
Be kind to yourself with it. Be patient, because it can feel difficult sometimes to see. It's difficult to see the label from inside the bottle, and that's where you are when you're thinking about your brand. But utilize tools like ChatGPT to ask you questions, to bring that information out of you, and yeah, be kind to yourself with this, because it is a process. It's a never-ending process, and I don't want that to feel daunting. I want that to feel exciting, because again, we evolve, our business evolves, and so does our brand. And it's like, okay, where do I want to see myself in a few years? That's what you want to design for, in my opinion.
100%. And I can tell you one thing of a pitfall when you're starting out, having a logo which is gold color. Man, you're going to have a tough time translating that into media,
So true.
or it's just tough, right? So not that I'm against the gold logo, but maybe once you kind of have established, if you have money, go for it, get it, because it will work. But if you have a very tight budget, avoid anything with gold in it.
Yes, and I agree. Actually, I would love to give this tip. Start with a black logo. Icon, letters, everything. If it looks good in black, it's going to look good everywhere else in every other color too.
That's a
So,
huge, that's an amazing tip.
yeah,
Always start with black, not in a color, right?
yes,
So this is it, and we'll be adding the resources. Thank you so much for listening and watching, whatever that you're doing. We are going to add your resources. We are going to get the brand. Barb will share the how to create your intentional brand sheet, the worksheet. We can do that. We will also add some links on how the brand activation works, or at least add that in the video on visuals of that, so that you really get the feel for how it's all going to come together. And to podcast listener who are not watching it, I will really try to add the samples of everything in the podcast link, so you can see here is a brand, this is how it works, and all of it. That way, you have something to go back and actually implement it. Just implement it, right? You there's no thing like, you only learn by doing it, not by just watching and listening. So thank you so much for staying with us, and thank you so much, Bar, for coming to it today, right? I think I'm sure people learned a lot about, we literally just the tip of, not even a tip of iceberg, but branding is so big. And look at all the top brands and learn from it, why you need to do it. And if you're a small business owner, you must get your strong brand defined, so that you can show up and own your magic.
that's right. Thank you, Prati.